and welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oded Grober. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on our program, we'll talk to photographer Miri Davidovitch about her new exhibition of photographs from Tel Aviv's club scene of the 1980s. An artist filled a British market with thousands of products made of felt. And we'll wrap up the summer season at the cinema. But we begin at the Venice Film Festival, where esteemed Israeli filmmaker Amos Gitai screened his latest film, Tzili. Gitai is joining me now on the phone from Venice. Hello, Amos. Thank you for speaking to us today.
With pleasure.
So you've just screened Tzili, an adaptation of the novel by Aaron Apfelfeld, at the festival. Tell me a little bit about the film, if you will.
Sure. So Tzili is, as you mentioned, an adaptation of Aaron Apfelfeld book. It is really a complete piece that I shot in Yiddish. And because I wanted to conserve the idea of Yiddish as a language of the diaspora. And it's maybe one of the first films shot entirely in Yiddish since after the war. You know, the language now is used mostly by Orthodox Jews and not so much elsewhere. So it was very moving to see an entire film in this very important cinematic event, which is Venice in Yiddish, and the big public which came to see it, I think, was moved.
Yeah, certainly an interesting choice there. Now, you've always been very outspoken politically. Coming to Venice so shortly after the fighting in Gaza, you probably had a full stomach.
I mean, you know, it is an event of cinema, so we're not...
Right.
Maybe fortunately we're not dealing directly with politics, but obviously the resonance of the recent conflict were present in Venice, and then people asked many questions about the Israeli position and the war, etc., etc. As you can imagine, it is a big media hub. In the press conference, there are hundreds and sometimes even thousands of accredited journalists. So it is a strong stage to speak about issues which concern the world.
Right. Now, I'm curious, do you see a connection between the story you chose to tell in your film and current events?
I think that, I mean, I don't see any direct connection, but the great thing about Apfelfeld that he doesn't instrumentalize the Holocaust.
Right.
You know, he speaks about the individual destinies crushed by the Holocaust, by the Second World War, and I think that's the great thing. So you cannot, in a way, in quotation mark, use his text, and that's the greatness of his writing, because the Holocaust has been recycled so much, and more again, and the references are kind of overwhelming to the current situation, and I think that we should isolate sometimes, speak about certain historical period without making these very vulgar equations. You know.
Of course. Thank you so much, Amos, and enjoy the rest of your festival.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Miri Davidovitz is an Israeli photographer whose career spans over 20 years. During that time, she worked in fashion, advertising, and journalism. Her new exhibition, Rock in Black, at the Eretz Israel Museum in Tel Aviv, takes us back to the 1980s, showing photos Davidovitch took mainly in two legendary Tel Aviv clubs, the Penguin and Dan Cinema. Very happy to welcome Miri to our studio. Thanks for coming in, Miri.
Hi.
So take us back to the 1980s, to that time where these pictures are from. Set the mood for us.
A very small town, Tel Aviv, quite isolated from the world, much darker, much. I also think dirtier, which is not a very nice thought, but this is the truth.
And photographs, well.
But also in reality, and as exciting as it is now.
At least.
Yes.
Now, why now? Why go back to that time now?
It has been building. These photographs have been in my archive for all these years. And a few years ago, I was approached by a documentary television series, and I started exposing some of the photos, and I saw the reactions. I saw that people are really, really excited. People want to see more and more, and I decided to expose it. And I offered it to the Eretz Israel Museum, and they were clever enough to accept.
It certainly gives a glimpse into a world, to a very specific world of that time. When you were there, when you were taking the pictures, were you just in the moment, or did you take on yourself the role of sociologist almost?
I always, as a photographer, also look as a sociologist. Now too, when I came to this television studio, I straight away started inspecting this, observing that. I saw a few people I recognized, so I always look in this sense. But when I was taking the pictures, I was commissioned by a magazine and another newspaper, and basically I was very dedicated to doing my job the best I could. I didn't think in perspective or... Yes, you can see from the photographs that I was looking at specific things,
right.
Like you saw that close-up on the shoes, so I was observant, but I was covering the whole scene as I saw it as a clubber and as a photographer.
Right, because you were part of that scene.
Yes. The pictures were taken during a few evenings, and also some were in my very small studio at the time, and a few fashion editorials. And I lost my...
I lost your train of thought. Let me take you somewhere else.
Okay.
Why do you think nowadays there's such fascination with that time?
I'm asked this question a lot, and I started thinking more about it. I think that it is a unique period.
In what sense?
It's very defined style-wise, which is very uncharacteristic to Israelis. Music-wise, and also it was the first time that young Israelis were against the mainstream.
Right.
Before that, it was always military service, which still is.
Still.
And
people fought back in
yes,
a way.
and doing our own thing, very individual, which was very, very new.
Right. Now, as I've mentioned, you worked on all kinds of projects over the years.
I still work. I have to.
And you still, and you
Very
will
much
also.
so.
What do you like to work on most?
I like everything that has to do with people.
Okay.
Unlike objects. And I do a lot of fashion. I really like fashion. It gives me the opportunity to materialize or execute my fantasies or pictures I imagine. So because I work with newspapers and magazines and also private clients, basically I have all the means to produce these images and photographs.
Right. You also have a blog where you post some work and some thoughts. Is that something that came natural to you?
I started it a few years ago. I started mainly doing it about photography, quite practical. At first it was in Hebrew. And it became quite popular. It's got a lot of information for photographers, ideas, thoughts. And then I realized that I should do it in English if I want to talk to the world. So I started it more, my blog in English, more like touristic. Anyway, my aim really is to make it into a newspaper or something very, very lively, and I hope that I will be able to do it.
I have complete faith in you, Miri. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Now, consumer culture is pervasive, even in art. For many years, it has inspired artists, from Andy Warhol onwards. It is also the case with British artist Lucy Sparrow, who created a small and unusual grocery store. Sandy Fortis brings us the story.
The supermarket seems very trendy in the art world these days. In March, Karl Lagerfeld transformed the Grand Palace into a supermarket for a show, while Indian artist Subodh Gupta likes to build giant facilities with Indian dishes of stainless steel. The inspiration behind this kind of art is nothing new. In the 1960s, while some were rebelling themselves against consumption, pop art icon Andy Warhol painted in brightly colored cans of Campbell's soup, and Swedish sculpture artist Klaus Oldenburg reproduced in baked potatoes, burgers, or club sandwiches. Today, it's a neighborhood grocery store that has inspired British artist Lucy Sparrow to create the Corner Shop, a shop where all the products are completely handmade out of felt.
It's a comment on the fact that we don't necessarily spend as much time with our neighbours now. We don't have the small shops that we go to. There's a lot of supermarkets that are coming in and taking over the trade. So I wanted to sort of highlight the local business and neighbours' attitudes.
A project that is close to her heart, Lucy Sparrow spent 8 months making all these products in fabric, with the goal of getting her message across. This unusual plan has required a lot of time, but also money. More than 13,000 euros, funded in part by the Arts Council of England and largely by the internet site Kickstarter.
Well, we donated on Kickstarter, so we were part of the people funding the project. So we wanted to come down and see it now that it's all finished. I think we'll both choose something, and then, but who knows what it's going to be, because we want to buy everything at this point.
Throughout the month of August, the small grocery store was open to the public. 4,000 items for sale cost between 6 and 190 euros. All these products are also available on a special website for international consumers. And while waiting to reach New York this summer to install a new corner shop, for now Lucy Sparrow shares her knowledge at small sewing workshops in England.
It seems Christmas has come early this year. It's not even the weekend yet, and Shachar Peled is already here with her segment Off Screen.
Love the introduction. Love
I
it.
try.
You gotta love it. We're going to talk about the summer of films. This summer has ended, and it was one of the worst summers, you might say, in the past decade.
Has it?
Yes, here in Israel, you might say there was an ongoing war, so less people went
why.
to... but in the US, no excuses. In the box office there of North America, it trailed 15% after 2013. Lowest grossing box office since 2006.
That's incredible. I thought that it can only go up.
Well,
it's been going up and more money coming in for years now.
Apparently not. We'll soon come to the reasons, but let's start with the happier news. First of all, Guardians of the Galaxy was definitely the winner of this summer, exceeding the expectations of Disney executives. It started with a $170 million budget. It went to almost $280 million domestically, and
also
over 500...
exceeded the expectations of critics everywhere.
Absolutely, it's true. Both audiences and critics loved it. Worldwide, it went on to $553 million. Definitely will continue to a sequel in 2017. Second place came in with Transformers. Transformers Age of Extinction.
They can't all be winners.
Underperformed, unfortunately. It came in with $244 million, only $244 million domestically, but over $1 billion worldwide, with China being one of the biggest biggest audiences, $300 million only in China.
Right.
So that's good news. But where are the bad news? Very big budget misfires. If we take a look at The Expendables 3 with a $100 million production, only $15.8 million opening weekend.
Ouch. But that's the world is gonna make up that.
Well,
that gap,
hopefully, but still, in the domestic box office, both
why
Sin
is this
City,
happening?
Edge of Tomorrow crashed.
Right.
And Edge
Why
of
is
Tomorrow was a decent film.
Yeah, it was.
Why is this happening? Many blame the World Cup that attracted most of the attention. In the animation sphere, there was the only the How to Train Your Dragon 2 with comparison to Monsters University and Despicable Me 2 of last
Right.
year. It was
Huge hits.
there was it didn't stand a chance. And there was the Fast and Furious franchise was supposed to release its number 7 this year, and it had to regroup following Paul Walker's death,
Right.
and so production was delayed by 4 months.
Oh well, I'm not shedding any tears for Hollywood just yet, but maybe one day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today as well. I hope you enjoyed watching our show. We'll be back tomorrow, so join us again.